Hello, this is Will Faerber from Art to Ride, and today we're looking at the second submission that's been sent in by our friend Angie here from Australia. And just starting off, I want to say how really nice this horse looks already. I've watched through the tape, and he really is stretching wonderfully over his back, and compared to the first video, there's no comparison whatsoever. She's gotten that last bit out of his neck, as I always say. We have to get them all the way down and long before we start to bring them up, and she's done a wonderful job of doing this. If you compare this walk to the walk in the first tape that we looked at, and just the way she was going about it here. Now she's keeping the horse in a good, steady rhythm, not a lot of stopping and starting, keeping the horse in a good, steady, swinging rhythm over his back, and he's gotten so much longer and through his top line. And of course, I have to apologize. I thought I misread your interpretations for off-the-track thoroughbred, and thought that you were talking about a quarter horse there. So, sorry about that, but he is a thoroughbred, but he's quite a chunky one, to say the least. I mean, from what we would see here in the United States very often. And he is a little bit straight behind, which makes this even more important that you do this work correctly, that you get him coming through and using his hocks, because of course the straighter the hock is behind, the more difficult it is to get the horse to come through. And of course, the more difficult it is to ultimately get collection. Remember what collection means. When people talk about it, I hear that word all the time. And they often mean some sort of shortening of pulling the horse together. Collection, once you have the horse working over its back, simply is the degree to which the horse lowers the three joints of the hind legs. That's what collection is. It's not pulling the horse together, or we hear the word often bantied about where trainers will tell, oh, collect them up and this kind of thing. It basically doesn't mean anything. So it's good that we get our vernacular straight right from the beginning. This horse is having a good working trot, and we must have good working trots. Working, it's called working because that's where we're working the muscles enough to develop the strength to ultimately be in self-carriage and in collection. But right now, she's got this horse going wonderfully lightly. He's carrying himself. He's stretching down into the contact, and I like how she does a few big circles. And you notice how she's not doing anything outside of the ordinary, that is, that without the ordinary of his ability. She's keeping it to large circles, which, of course, at this stage, about a 20-meter circle is about all they can do. I mean, for years, we finally have improved the dressage test in America because we've taken all the rising trot out of the training and first levels, which was ruining so many horses because they were getting set on before they could be comfortable because they weren't over their back. So then they become stiff and shortened in the gaits, which has led to many, many ruined horses. So this is absolutely wonderful, and I want to point out that she is doing this in a Western saddle, which, for all of you people out there who are trying to do what they call Western dressage, well, there's no such thing as Western dressage. You're either doing dressage or you're not. And if you're not working the horse over the back, you're not doing dressage, no matter what you want to call it. Going out and riding around on patterns and hollow, stiff horses is not dressage. Dressage is all about bringing the horse to his maximum potential without stress. And creating a partner that goes out and does this work with you and begins to enjoy it. Now look how nice the walk is here. He's stepping through. I would like to see her swinging him through a little bit more, but that's really nice. Making a nice change there. That was almost too small a circle there, but that was really quite nice. He kept the rhythm pretty nicely, and she's keeping him out there in front of her. Now the one thing I would say about riding in the Western saddle, so to me, there is no difference in the training of a horse. The only thing that changes is the saddle. Now, this is more like a stock saddle that it looks like she has on here. But the one thing I would say about it is that it puts you in a little bit of a chair seat. In other words, it sets your legs out in front of you. You're doing a good job of keeping your toe lifted. But I'd like to see you lift up a little more, and I'd like to see you get underneath, get your leg underneath you a little more. And quite frankly, I don't know how possible that is in that saddle, just because the way most of those saddles sit, they sit you kind of a little bit like you're in an armchair. So know that that's a little bit of a difficulty, and with a better balanced saddle for what you're trying to do, or maybe even balancing that one, that may be quite possible to balance the saddle you have a little differently, to get you over your leg, so to speak, a little bit more. And once you do that, I'd like to see you stretch up just a little bit and just bring your chest up and lift up your upper body just a little bit more. You're just a little bit tilted forward, not badly, but I'd like to, there's two positions that we use, which is slightly lifted up and slightly behind the motion and then with the motion. You're kind of with it You're pretty much with it, but slightly ahead of the motion in my view. So I'd like to see you stretch your leg down and your upper body up a little more. But you're doing a very commendable job here. I love how you're letting your outside shoulder just come around in the turns. Now he's getting a little under impulsed here again, so I'd like to see you get him a little more swinging through, but you seem to come back every time you lose it. So remember, let the back guide you. If you feel just like you did just there, you were working on some things, but it was beginning to degrade the horse's gait. So you went back to moving him forward. That's exactly what you should do. Anything you do that destroys the horse's gaits is counterproductive. Thus, anybody with the idea that pulling a horse's neck into the body is somehow going to improve the horse, I mean, once you think logically, you sort of realize how completely absurd that is. Pin your neck to one side and try to run or whatever. We've got to have the horse working over the whole length of its top line, like this horse looks, like a ball. And too many people today banter about the word round. We hear people saying this all the time. I had a girl come in training with me, and she told me her trainer told her that the horse was round when you held on so tight that the middle of the neck popped up and you pulled it in, that was round. Well, how sad that there are teachers out there telling children things like this, because obviously that's not round. Round is when the horse is round over the entire length of his top line, as you're seeing this horse is becoming. So really good job with this. I love how each time he comes back, he's a little bit more swingy. But once again, just keep trying to work it a little bit bigger. The improvement over the first tape that I saw of this horse is night and day. I mean, he's really moving. You were on the right track, but you hadn't quite got it all the way there, and now you are getting it there all the way. And look how easily, for instance, here, you're doing a little leg yield is what you should do. The leg yields are the first movement that we do. She's doing that quite nicely from the center out to the outside of the circle. That's just what you should do. The next way would be to come down the center line and leg yield towards the outside. And then when you can do that, then you'd come back and leg yield from the outside to the inside. So we work very methodically through all the exercises, just like this, and every day. This is starting to look like a very ordered workout. You're continuing to work forward. The horse is swinging over its back. And it looks like you have a plan. I see so many people come out and ride, and that's really, I would always say they suffer from random riding. They really don't have a plan, but the plan has to include what the horse. I mean, some people will read these articles and then they come out, well, here's my plan. Well, that was planned for some other horse. So remember, what guides the plan is whether the horse is working over its back or not. Cavaletti are wonderful for horses if they're working over their back, and if they're not working over the back, it's the best way in the world to lame one up. So this has to guide everything that you do. So we always come back to this foundation. And once have we seen, this is a horse, she has followed just our tapes here and one discussion that I had, and she's already doing this all on her own. So, look how easy this actually is. Once you understand how to ride horses through from behind, it changes everything that you do and just takes this struggle. I mean, how many of you stood and watched people that were supposed to be dressage riders battling with the horse for hours and, and whipping it into a lather, trying to collect it, as they say. And once again, remember that relaxation is always the guiding force. Now, not relaxation without impulsion. A horse can become too relaxed where it just doesn't, it gets away with everything, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for a horse that works through its back in relaxation. And the same thing, that's the trouble with the rolker, as well as it being incredibly cruel. Essentially, when you think about what people are doing when they're rolkering horses, what they're actually doing is strangling the horse into submission. They're basically, by forcing the neck over like that, the horse literally cannot breathe. So you're literally strangling the horse into submission, which of course should have, be nothing in a real dressage rider's lexicon of what they'd like to do. Now look how nicely this horse is swinging over his back here. That's really nice. He's even starting to develop a little push through his back. And once again, that's how you know, like if you feel your horse like you're having to lift yourself in your stirrups to get out of the saddle in the rising trot, that you should know right away the horse is not moving through his back. Because when they do, like you see Angie here, the horse just pops her right out of the saddle. It's effortless. And she's keeping a beautiful rhythm, keeping him going. Anything that destroys the rhythm, we must immediately straighten out. That's what the old riders used to meant when they talked about going forward all the time. It just means to go forward. If the horse spooks, keep going. Don't keep doing a lot of little tiny stops and these sorts of things. Keep flowing forward. That's the nature of the horse, is to keep going. Great job, Angie. This has been Will Faerber from Art to Ride. I look forward to seeing another tape from you. This is absolutely fantastic. You are on track, my friend. Say hi to our friends in Australia.